I'm muted. Good morning. You ready to get going? Yeah, you're muted too.
I'm muted too, yeah.
All right, let's do this. Thanks for joining. I'm going to go ahead and let everyone in and then kick us off. Good morning or good afternoon. I realized after yesterday's session, it's probably lunchtime for most of you. It is very much my morning over here in California. So, but welcome. Thanks everyone for joining. As per usual, we'll get started in just a minute. We can enjoy some music. Hopefully we don't have my free Spotify commercials today. Adrian had that earlier in the week. As soon as I started letting everyone in, it went straight to a commercial. And so let's see.
Though, right?
Let's see what it does. I know. All right. Good morning. Yes, let me grab that for you. Multitasking over here, letting people in. All right. I had a really bad timing of my Teams and Outlook. I decided to let them update this week. So I'm very disoriented. All right, Casa Grande, I'm sending over that call-in number right now. Welcome everyone. Ken, thanks for joining us. It's so fun having you on this week. All right, we'll wait one more minute just because the later in the week we go, I'm noticing people are a little bit slower to hop on, which is totally fine. And then we'll get going right here in another minute. Or if my commercials start playing, then we'll quickly, I'll quickly mute that and we can get going. I think every single person though, today is like for sure, I know all you guys now, like we're friends. So thanks for being here. Thanks for coming back. All right, let me go ahead and pause this music. And let's get going. Today we have Adrian joining us. She's going to be teaching us all about the language of Firefly. So just in case anyone does not know how this flows, I'm going to go ahead and walk us through just like normal, our agenda and what to expect. And I do keep changing things up on us a little bit each day. So let's get started. We're going to do introductions this morning just for a moment before. It's been so fun to hear some feedback from you guys and get your guys' questions and then get to know you a little bit too as you guys ask. So I actually have a slide for it today. Right after this, if you guys just want to throw in the chat like who you are, where you're from this morning, and then any questions that you have as we get started. Even if it's not on Adrian already mapped out her training, so I'm not going to like throw her some last minute curveballs. But even if they're not a part of that, we can make sure we get those things answered at the end or follow up with you after. I've been doing that with some people's questions too, sending you guys some follow-up emails this afternoon. Evening for you, probably afternoon for me, answering those questions. So then we'll jump into our training. We'll do some Q&A halfway through our training, jump back into the training, and then we will wrap up for the day. So let's see. Yep, I do have my slide. I saw some people are already adding it, but I would love to know who are you, where you're from, how you doing, feedback, questions that you have, and then in just a minute we can get going. I realize I haven't been introducing myself, but mostly because I'm looking at your guys' names, I'm like, you for sure know me. But if you don't know me, I'm Katie. I work on our customer experience here at Firefly, and our goal this week is really just to help you guys have as seamless of a transition from Astro to Firefly. We know like how big of a deal it is. We know the process that goes into making a decision for your park, making a decision of your software. It's your bread and butter, how you take your money, how you take your reservations, how you run your day-to-day, and we don't take that lightly. So that's what we're doing here this week. That's a lot of my role is working with our team on like what are like our different like cool ideas that we have or the ways that we can help meet you guys where you're at. And so I'm gonna start saying hi to everyone in the chat. We have Adrian, you got a shout out from Angel. Casa Grande in Arizona. Oh, so you guys are closer to me than most people. Hello from the West Coast. Acorn Acres, town of Saugeen. Is that how you say that? Saugeen Shores. Cameron County Park is here, and Ohio Camp Lake Erie is here as well. Welcome, you guys. Thank you. And yeah, if you guys ever have questions, you can send them in the chat. If you have questions after this, like an hour later, you can go ahead and email us as well. We'd love to get them answered for you. So without further ado, Adrienne, I will let you go ahead and take over the screen and let's get started.
Sorry, my computer's a little pokey today. So let me know that you can see it.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I think I know everyone here. But hi, I'm Adrienne. If we haven't met in person, at least virtually, we're meeting kind of face to face now. I think I've been where most of you are. So I started on Campground Manager when I started working at a campground. Then we changed to Astra, so I had to go through that whole shebang, just like many of you did. And now I've had to learn Firefly all over again, just like many of you are as well. So we're talking about the comparisons between Astra and Firefly, what it was in Astra and how you can do it or find it in Firefly, because I know that's probably the most challenging part where you're like, I know I used to be able to do this. How do I do it now? So I'm going to start at the one part that, like, this was the one that had me going for a long time, and it's the units. So in Astra, we call units sites. In Firefly, it's units instead. So under settings, you'll see units here, and this is a list of all the sites in your park. This is just my demo park, so please don't judge the data in here. In Astra, everything is at a site type level. So, you know, your rates are all classified by site type. The types of trailers and RVs you allow on it are by site type, discounts and everything like that. In Firefly, everything is on a unit-based level. So that means that if you really wanted to, every single site or unit in your park could have a different rate, a different deposit schedule, different things about what you allow on the site. So I'm just going to go into one here. So I think that's like one of the biggest differences. And just calling it a unit for me took a really long time. And sometimes I still say site because in my head that makes sense. But you can see every single site or unit is fully customizable, which is really nice because we didn't really have that level of flexibility in Astra. So you can see here, every single site can have a different capacity. You can classify a minimum length now, which is great, and a maximum length. And this does go for both online bookings and park level bookings. But at the park level, you can override it if you need to. You can classify if there are slide outs allowed and the minimum manufacturer year. That's a thing that a lot of people wanted in Astra that we never got to have. So I'm glad it's in Firefly. And then down here as well is the prohibited equipment types. So it's a little bit backwards to Astra. So in Astra, you would say what unit types or equipment types are allowed for each site type. In Firefly, you say what's not allowed on each site type. So, or site actually in general. So you can see here that if I didn't want tents on this site, I would check mark that, and that would disallow tents from being on site 1 here. There is the unit class, and the unit class is actually the site type. So you'll notice that if you look under settings and unit classes, you will see all of the site types you had in Astra listed here because that does come over automatically in the migration. You can change the names if you want, doesn't matter. So if you don't like what we called it in Astra, go ahead, change it up. But then you can link the units to those individual site types. Just be aware though that the unit class does not drive the rates. So if I change this right now to a 50 amp site, that's not going to change anything about this site. It's just changing that classification. So just be aware of that. The rates on their own are here under the rate tab. So you'll notice that we have our daily, weekly, monthly, and seasonal rates. That's pretty much the same to Astra there. And then all of your holiday rates go here at the bottom. So in Astra, it was one big price schedule for the year. In Firefly, you have like your base rate and then anything that goes for special dates on top of that below in the special rates. So that's a little bit of a difference as well. The other big thing is that, actually 2 more about the rates and the sites. In Astra, we have customer classes, so you could classify what kind of customer they were, and those customer classes could drive special rates if you wanted them to. In Firefly, we do have the same capability, but instead of being called a customer class, it's called a rate qualifier over here. So if we look in our rate qualifiers, we'll see these here. These will not come over in the migration, so we do have to set these up again if you still want them. But this is just the name of it. And then in the actual unit setup, and I'm sure they talked about this the other day, but I think this is the one thing that's definitely getting used to. In the actual rate setup here, you can see your special rates. You can add a rate qualifier to it. So down here, and that's how you drive that special rate with that rate qualifier, or again, customer class. The last part about the unit setup is the linked charges. So in Astra, everything had a separate charge really to it. So your adults, children, lock fees, vehicles, pets, whatever you wanted to add to the reservation was called a linked charge or a split charge. In Firefly, the guest fees are associated with the rate itself. So you'll see here, if we look at the daily rate, these are our guest fees here. So these are the number of people included in the price, and this is the extra cost here. Astra, you couldn't as easily do like a total, like if you wanted to record adults and children and then total number of people, we could kind of do it, we could make it work, but it wasn't seamless. How's that? So in Firefly, if you do want, you can do by max number of occupants versus adults and children. So that's an option as well. And if you don't want any of that to appear, cool, you can do none. And same with Astra, we didn't have to have that. The other big difference is the lock fee. So again, in Astra, that was a linked charge. Here in Firefly, it's actually built into the unit. So if you wanted to charge different amounts for, you know, maybe sites 1 through 10 or premium sites, and you want the lock fee to be higher, no problem. And then again, if you wanted like cabins to be different, no problem. So that's associated with the actual unit. And same with the minimum and maximum nights. In Astra, that was part of the price schedule, and you could not change that on a site level. You can do that here. So this is just for site number 1. And I'm sure they showed you about the import export over here. So you can copy settings to other sites, but that would be the really big differences between how the rates work. Yeah, and then the deposits as well. So again, in Astra deposits, you could do based on the price schedule. So you could do it like first night, you could do it a percentage, or you could do it the full amount. In Firefly, you can get really fancy with all of your deposits. So you can see here, if I click edit, just so you can take a look, you can really customize it based on length of stay and how many nights you want. So if you want to go by nights, you could do like a 2-night deposit or a 3-night deposit. So that's something that's wildly different from Astra, but in a good way, because we've added a lot more flexibility to it. So yeah, that's the good part about those ones there. Now the amenities, these were called attributes in Astra. In Astra, they were hard-coded. I know many of you had asked if we could add things or change it, and we could not. In Firefly, it is all user-driven. So over here on the left, you have your amenities list. Now, with the migration, everything in Astra does come over. So you'll get that whole list of hard-coded site attributes that we had before, but you can delete them as long as they're not linked to anything in Firefly. So I usually suggest going through your list and just deleting anything that you don't need. Like I think one of the big ones is like there's near beach or near waterfront in Astra, and people are like, I'm not on a beach or near the water, so I don't even need this in here. So go through, axe the ones you don't want, and feel free to add whatever you want in. So that's a nice big difference too. If we go to our discounts, this is another one that threw me. On the left side here, we have coupons. Those are your discounts. I know it says coupons, it's the same thing. So if it's like Good Sam or a coupon code that you're using for like Cyber Monday or something, you do it all through the coupons tab. If we go to new coupon up here, you can see that you can have a description, you can have a coupon code, and amount based on either a percentage or a flat fee, so whichever you prefer. This flat fee is overall, it is not a per night flat fee. So just that's a big difference with the Astra one. Here you can customize when the coupon's being used and what it's applied to. At this point in time, coupons can or discounts can only be applied to units or site fees, add-ons, and lock fees. So not for the POS or anything at this time. With this one here, you can show it online if you want to. And again, that's like the reservation portal, so similar to BYS. You do have, like if you show it online, they don't have to have the coupon code. They can just choose like Good Sam from the drop down. If you have a special coupon code and you don't show it in drop down online, they can still enter the coupon code online if they have the code and get the discounts. So just so you're aware of the difference there. It's not like a necessarily on or off kind of thing. It's just if it's showing as a selectable discount in a drop down or not. So that one That's our discounts there. I'm going to go down to user accounts now. So under settings, we're going to go all the way down to users. And I'm sure you've noticed the one nice thing about Firefly is that there's no installs, right? So Astra, if you wanted to add a workstation, we had to get the license and do the whole shebang of installing it on your workstation. Firefly, as long as you have internet access, you can connect. You can go from your phone, your iPad, your tablet, whatever you want, as long as you have a user account that's set up. Every user in Firefly has to be set up with a unique email address. So it's not like Astra where it's just like first name, the first initial, last name, and a random password that you've created. It's really based on your email, and then you set the password that you want. Over here on the right are the user permissions. So in Astra, we had user roles. It's user permissions in Firefly, and you just go into the customer's account and you can check accordingly here what they do or don't have access to. We are working on putting a deeper level, more permissions, I guess, in there so that you'll be able to customize that a little bit more as well. Now, as long as somebody does have their email address and their password, they can log in. There are no clerk IDs for anything. So once you log in as that user, you're in as that user and everything's tracked as that user. So another difference there. All right, site closures. So I'm going to go up to property over here, and we're going to do blocked unit groups. So closed sites in Astra is blocked in Firefly. So in Astra, there's a couple ways to close sites. You could do it in bulk or on the grid. In Firefly, this is the bulk option. So you can do new blocked unit group. And especially if you are a seasonal park, you will want to go in here and put a block for the time that you're closed, just so that no one can sneak in there and book or anything like that. You can turn off online booking, but better to close it than have somebody decide they want to show up mid-December when you're not open, right? So if you go into here, you could select your date range. Now I'm not going to close it because it's a free-for-all in mine, but if we select our date range here, you can select which sites apply to the closure. So you could do all or just a few, whatever works. I just can do all of them though. You can choose your reason. So like out of season for the seasonal one, closed for any reason, repair. If you have other reservations that you want to put in but not have active in Firefly, you could do an external reservation there, and then the notes for it. So if you save that, that will close all of the sites you have selected at once on the map and grid. If you go to the grid here, oh, let me click on it, there we go. The other option, just like Astra, you can highlight, there we go, right click and do add block. So again, closure and block are the same. So that's all there is to that one. Groups. So I know groups were a big thing in Astra. You had your 3-person icon to add people to your group. It's a little bit different in Firefly. They're called group holds now. And part of the reason for this is you can add a group hold, and this will allow people to use the code. So like fun group, there we go. It expires the end of November. If they all get a special coupon because they're part of a rally or something, you can assign that to all the reservations or a rate qualifier. We'll select our guest. Go. That's just our organizer. And then I'll save that group hold. So what this does is this now allows me to add, let me choose my date range here, sorry. They're gonna come for Christmas, because why not? All right. So when you put your date range in here, it'll show you the sites that are available, and you can select between different unit types. So if you have a group that's doing RV sites and cabins, no problem. You'll add the units that you want to the group hold. And this actually allows them to book these sites, only these sites, online, providing they're using this code. So they don't have to call you and have that whole mishmash of, oh, what group are you in? Who do you want to be next to? Like all that kind of stuff. If you set the sites aside for the group, then they can go ahead and just book online, pay their own credit card, and be good to go. If we do new reservation, the same thing holds true. You can put the group code in here, and the clerks can get just the sites that were set aside for that group. If somebody does decide to be part of the group after the fact, maybe they made a reservation and they didn't realize that the group had a group hold, because there's always those people who are kind of out of the loop. You can go to options and you can add it to a group hold after the fact as well, so that you know that they're part of that group. So that's the difference with the group holds there. I love that you can assign it online, because that's just so cool. And it's nice, especially for organizing everything, as I'm sure anybody who does groups knows it can be kind of a free-for-all sometimes, and people aren't always on the same page. Now, if we go back to the dashboard here, I always think of this as kind of like our transaction dashboard that pops up when you first log in in the morning to Astra. I would say there's a little bit more information on here without having to move around too much. But down here, we'll see our payments, upcoming recurring if you're doing recurring, overdue charges. I don't collect money from my park apparently, but you can scroll down here on any of these little boxes. So it's not just what you can see, you can scroll. And then your arrivals and departures. Now, I know one tab that people love in Astra is that customers tab just on the top left. And that's going to be very similar to reservations and search reservations or the little magnifying glass here. You can't really print from this screen, but there are reports that you can print that are similar. So from this screen, you'll be able to find guests. You can look at arrivals because you can sort it by arrivals. You can sort it by departure. You have your stay between, which would be any part of stay range in Firefly. So it works very similarly, minus the printing part. You can also use this search bar to search for data within the list here as well. So I know one thing that people used a lot in Astra was like the site number search from the customers tab. But if you just come over here to the search and then type in the site number, it will show you all the site, like all the reservations on that site number, just like Astra did under the site search. So that would be how you would do that on that one there. Bulk emailing, that was also fun. So in Astra, you would right click to do your bulk email from any one of your tabs. The bulk email in Firefly is over here under guests, and it's just called email guests, which I think sounds a little nicer than bulk. So here you would choose your date range, and this is going to be guests in the park for the date range you've chosen. You could select all the names or uncheck names if there's people in this list. You're like, I don't want that person to get the email. You can uncheck them from here. And then you can compose your email down here at the bottom. There is the option to add templates. So if you want to add a template and then load that template in, no problem. So if you're sending like a similar event email or something all the time, go ahead and make it a template and then load it in here when you go to send it. Like the tags in Astra, we have placeholders in Firefly, so that will just insert the information based on what the placeholder is. So if you wanted to put like the guest's first name to make it look nice and personal, you have your guest first name placeholder there. So I think it's very similar to what Astra did, just different names for it, right? Also, you do have the ability to bold, italicize, underline, color, bullet list, everything like that in the emails here. So a little more flexibility in that sense as well, which is great. Now, while we're talking about emails, let's go ahead and look at the email templates. They're over here on the left under settings and email templates. If you are using text messaging, you have the same capabilities. They just say SMS guests instead of email for a bulk SMS, and then SMS templates instead of email templates. So always an option. There are automated emails in Firefly, which never happened in Astra. So the one that I know a lot of people wanted to send but often forgot would be that pre-arrival email, which is like, hey, you're coming soon. Here's what you need to know. In Firefly, that is called the upcoming reservation email. It's automatically sent 2 days prior to arrival. So you don't have to do anything for this to go out. It will honestly just go out. If you click on it, you can edit it to whatever you want it to be. So, and I always suggest going in and editing this one because this is the default. And you might not have laundry in your office. So we don't want people wandering around looking for stuff that's not there, right? So go ahead and edit this up the way you want it. A couple of the other ones that go automatically would be this reservation follow-up email, which is sent a couple of days after they check out. If there are emails that are automatic, they'll have a sending checkbox on the top right. If you don't want those emails to go out, you can uncheck sending and save it, and that will stop it from sending automatically. The template's still there if you'd like to use it for like manual emails, but that'll stop it from going automatically on you. I'd say go through these, see which ones you like, spruce them up a little bit, because you definitely have more options in how you can do that with like the bolding and the coloring and all that fun stuff there. The other thing too, I know in Astra you had your little, what's it called, envelope, envelope on the customer's account to send them an email. In Firefly, that's going to be under the guest tab, And then just, I don't have an email on this one, that was a bad example, but if they did have an email, there would be email guest right here, so you could send that off too. While we're in the guest here, I'm going to go to edit guest. Unfortunately, I'm sure you had to use this sometimes in Astra. We had the violation, right, with the little blue speech bubble. Well, there's no violation alert in the same way in Firefly. If you go in to edit the guest and scroll down, you'll notice there is a guest rating. So instead of a violation level, it's a guest rating instead. If you mark them as banned, they will not be able to book online. So it doesn't say like, oh, you're banned from the park. It says something like, there's been an error making your reservation. Please call the park to make it. And if you try to make it at the park level, it also warns you that this guest has been banned. So that's what you're going to use for your violations. The blue speech bubble for guest notes would be right here in the guest tab as well. So you can see whatever you want to put in about the guest there. They will not see this. So whatever you write in here about the guest will not be able to see on anything. So don't worry. Don't worry about what you write in there. All right. I know a lot of people in Astra booked from the map. We don't have a front-facing map the same way, but if you go to new reservations over here, you are able to, enter your information. And if you just wanted to see what sites were occupied for today, you could just do today's date. That's fine. And hit search. Now, I don't have a map because this is a fake park, but your map would appear here and you'd be able to click on it and book from the map if that's what you prefer, or just see what sites are open. Unfortunately, you do have to fill this information out though, so just put some fake stuff in there if you're just kind of looking for an overview and hit search, and then you'll be able to see what's open. It'll show red for occupied and green for available. So I think red and green is pretty good for stop and go. So. But that's really the only way to book from the map in Firefly is going that way. With the customer folio, so again, in Astra, we had our customer folio. In Firefly, everything is based on a reservation level. So like this, for example, this is just one of Julie's reservations. Because there's no folio view where you can see all of them like in that middle section there, if you go to guest, and if you go to edit guest, or you could look her up over here under guests and search guests, same thing. The reservations tab under the guest name will show you all the reservations that they do have. So you're able to see that there. Of course, you could also go to the search reservations tab, type in the guest name, and see them all this way as well. You can sort all the column headings like you could in Astra just by clicking. So it does the exact same sorting thing. Which I love because I don't know, I just like to sort stuff. So that's really handy to have, especially when you're looking using that search reservations tab. The customer notes, so if you use the John Hancock, like in the bottom right in Astra of the transaction dashboard, that's going to be your notes tab here on the customer's reservation. Again, the customer will not see what you write in here. So whatever you need to record about them, no problem, they're not going to have access to it. That's a good thing. The little M icon that was above the John Hancock notes, that's your notifications in Firefly. It's the mail status in Astra. In Firefly, it's notifications. There's a little more information here too. It'll tell you if the email was sent successfully, it has a green check mark. It'll tell you if they opened the email and if they clicked on anything in the email. So you have a little bit more information, which gives you, I think, a bit more of a firmer leg to stand on when they tell you they didn't know or they didn't get it or something like that. I'm going to do one more thing before we pause for some questions. Now, the yellow pencil in Astra was your go-to, right? I always told people, when in doubt, click the yellow pencil if you have to make any changes. To make changes in Firefly, it's going to be the Units tab, and it's going to be the Options drop-down. So you can change the stay dates, which I think that's pretty self-explanatory. You can move to a new unit, and remember, it's unit, not site. So if you are moving it to a new unit or a new site, you'll see that pop up here. One really nice thing about Firefly is I know in Astra, if they had to move halfway during the month or during their stay, it was a whole thing. It was like a whole procedure to get that to work. In Firefly, you can choose to move on whatever day they're moving. And if you don't recalculate the charge, it will not touch the price. So you don't have to worry about finagling the 2 weeks there and the 2 weeks here. It'll just smoothly, easily do it. So let's say our guest is moving on December 5th to a new site. They're on 8. We're going to go to 61. And that's it. I have moved them to site 61 starting on December 5th. It has not affected their rates or their price whatsoever. I don't have to do any jimmying in that way. So I think you'll find that much easier. And the only side note that I also want to make, if you are changing the dates, make sure you check mark recalculate charges. If you do not check mark that box, the rate will not change. So I know in Astra, as soon as you change the days, it updated the rate for you, which usually was good, not always, but usually that was a good thing. In Firefly, if you don't check that, it will not update the rate, so just make sure you check it. There are not extensions in Firefly in the same way there were in Astra, so I would say usually you're just going to be changing the end date in lieu of doing an extension. So just make sure you're check marking that box. And then, of course, the charges tab is where you'll find all the charges, which would be like that bottom transaction section in Astra. So I'm going to stop there before we get into money, money and end of day reports and POS stuff, just in case there are any questions that we want to jump into now.
Yes, so we have a couple. Thanks to you guys for sending them in. The first question is the user function based on specific access. I don't see that option in Firefly.
So it's per user. So every user you can actually go into and change this access on or off. So like if I had another clerk who I didn't ever want to see reports, I would just uncheck view reports and they'd not have access to this menu. Or I would uncheck manage settings and they wouldn't be able to go in and change default rates and all that jazz.
Perfect. Another question, will the notes that were entered in Astra move over to Firefly in the migration?
They do. Yep. The John Hancock and the blue speech bubble on the top.
Awesome. Can you add additional placeholders within email templates, such as having the length of the unit displayed or insurance information being displayed within an email?
So whatever's in there right now is hard coded. So let me open one up just because I can't remember off the top of my head what's there and what's not. These are all the options right now. So reservation. We at this time don't have, and we don't have anything for insurance for sure, but we don't have unit info either at this time.
Awesome.
What's there is what's there right now. Yeah, sorry.
No, that's perfect. I'm going to go ahead and, oh, Deborah, your hand was up and then it was back down. So if you need to, you can still unmute. Go ahead and talk. Yeah, I see your hand up. You just got to unmute. Any other questions while Deborah's unmuting? If you guys want to send them in the chat or if you want to raise your hand, we do have time for a couple more before we jump back into things. All right. Deborah, if you want to, I know I keep lowering your hand because you have the option to unmute. So I don't know if I'm not doing it or if you're having technical difficulties. Okay, we did have another chat come through. Batch billing process in Astra, will that be coming to Firefly?
I've put a ticket in for it, so I'm hoping so. I know it is on the ticket, the enhanced request list. I can't guarantee when.
Okay.
So if you do batch billing in Astra, I would say do your batch billing before you migrate for next season so that you have the reservations made, because the reservations will come over and then at least we have a year then at that point.
Perfect. And another question is chatting. Angel is chatting a question right now. Oh no, your unmute button won't let you unmute. That's okay. If you want to try and type your question, you can, or if you want to call in, I can resend the number to call in and then we can unmute you from there. So just give me a moment. I can resend that in the chat. Okay, I just sent over the call-in number, or if you want to chat in your question, you can do that as well. Angel had a question. Are the recipients itemized? For example, do they show the deposit date that was paid and the day of arrival payment shows separately?
So that would you would have to send an invoice for that. So if you do the invoice, let me show you what that looks like. this might, oh no, she paid, so it's good. Okay. So the invoices, this is what they will look like. So as long as you're showing the individual payments, then it will show individually, like that way. And you can always get it after the fact, which I know in Astra, after you made a payment, the receipt was great. After you made the payment and closed it, it wasn't as easy to get back the way it was, but you'll see the individual payments broken down here.
Perfect.
Sorry, the animals are fighting.
That
Sorry.
is okay. No, animals make life so much better. Okay, that is, nobody else is typing at the moment, so let's jump back into it, and then we'll take time for more questions and answers at the end. So as they come to mind, feel free to send them in the chat or write them down, and then we'll do time for that later. Thanks, Adrian.
All right, perfect. Okay, so let's talk about credit cards and payments and all that fun stuff. So it was the brown wallet in Astra, which I know everyone was so familiar with. We're always going to do our payments now on the charges tab. Now, I know in Astra, when you went to make your credit card payment, it would pop up on that payment screen. In Firefly, you actually have to add the credit card number in first on the charges tab and then run the payment. So Julie here does have a payment method on file. If she didn't, it would say add payment method. So you would click on add payment method. You would put in the credit card number here and save it, and that will save it to the file, just like Astra, the card, once it's in, it's in. And then you go to new payment to actually make the payment. You will check, oh, she doesn't owe anything. Let me go ahead and change her dates here so that she owes some money for us. There we go. Okay. So I'm hitting that recalculate charges button. And then when I go back to the charges tab, now it has updated. There we go, to show a balance due of $271.20. So now when I go to new payment, I'm going to check mark what I'm paying for. We're going to choose our payment method of credit debit card and then use card on file. So use card on file will push it through based on the card you've added. Collect payment offline means you can record the payment as a credit card, but it will not process through the processor. So for those circumstances where you had to turn off the processor, put the payment through to correct something, then turn it back on, we don't have to do that anymore. You just process it offline. I would say just make sure the staff is very aware that if they choose this button, it will not be charged to the customer's card through Firefly. So that would be the big difference there. And it will send the payment receipt notification right away without you having to hit email and hit send. So two less clicks in that sense. So that's a good thing too. With the pre-authorization, I know a lot of people wanted to record the credit card numbers or just keep them on file without charging the card initially. Because you have that add payment method, that's what the pre-auth, like it already is kind of doing the pre-authorization. It'll hold the credit card on their account. You do not have to make a payment on the same day for the credit card information to stay on the account. So anybody who does like long-term seasonal, once you migrate, if you do have their credit card numbers and you want them to start putting them on the accounts, doing add payment method is they're not going to know that you've saved it. Basically, it's not going to ding their card. It's not going to show anything on their account, but you will be able to save the info for when you're ready to bill them next. So that's it's nice because I know it was weird when you had to charge them a penny and people got weird about it. So don't have to do that anymore. Let me just find, okay. So I'm going to go to Gabriel here. That's my bird. So we're going to look at this one. Now, if you're doing recurring charges, the recurring charges in Firefly, very similar to Astra. You can set up new recurring charges from here. Just be aware that setting up a recurring charge does not create a usage record. So in Astra, once you made a recurring charge, it blocked it off on the map, on the grid, on everything, right? If you just go to new recurring charge here in Firefly, that doesn't make any record on the grid to say that it is unavailable. So you have to make sure on the units tab that you have your dates filled out properly here, because this is what blocks off the site on the grid. And then this part controls the billing of that. So they're kind of two separate parts, just to make that clear. If you used autopay in Astra, that was a whole different ordeal as well. You can actually go to edit on the recurring charge just one time in Firefly, and you can select auto process payment. This will automatically auto process the payment to the card saved on their account in whichever way you decide. So if you want to process the payment, on a specific day of the month, great. If you want to do it on the day the charge is due, sure, no problem. If you want to send an email a day or two in advance to let them know, hey, your bill's coming due on this day, you can do that there as well. This is on a case-by-case basis. So once you set it up on that customer, it stays that way until you turn it off. So that's that one there. You can also schedule payments in Firefly, which we could not do in Astra. So let me just make this new charge just so we have something to look at here. So I've created next month's bill. So this should be, oh, I'm really ahead with this one, but that's okay. If you go to new payment and you check mark what they're paying for, you can actually schedule a payment for a specific date and it will auto process on that date as well. So you have that option versus like that batch auto process payment, it's this way instead. But the nice thing is once someone says, yeah, I want that, that's it. You don't have to go through a list every month and remove people or anything like that. So that's kind of in lieu of the auto bill. I'm just checking my notes to make sure I covered everything I wanted to. Okay, we're going to get into the fund account in 1 second. Before we do that, just a quick side note. In Astra, the payment methods were all hard-coded. So you basically had a list that we made up that you could choose from for your payment methods. In Firefly, it's similar under settings and payment methods, but you really can decide what you want showing for your clerks. And you can actually edit ones that you aren't going to use and change the name of them. So like if you don't want to use Zelle, but you want one called refund check, you could make it called refund check instead. You just type in the name differently here. Oh, you gotta spell it right though. There we go. And then save that and that'll always be there. This is the list of payment methods. You can change the order so it can default to credit debit if you like. And if you click on debit credit, you can customize the credit cards that are showing as available if you're taking offline payments. It's the same thing as in Astra where if you don't want to use Amex, make sure it's turned off at the processor level. Turning it off in here doesn't turn it off for the processor. So make sure that you contact your processor and have that switched off if there's a card that you don't want to be in use. Okay, so let's get into the fund account because it's very different. So in Astra, I know we're all very aware of the fund account and how you can deallocate funds, put money in the fund account. There is no more fund account in Firefly. It's all done now through a reservation credit, and it is all very intentional. You cannot accidentally put money in the reservation credit. You cannot accidentally use or refund money from the reservation credit. So if your clerks struggle with that, they're not going to anymore. So that's a nice thing. And you don't have to like worry about tracking it down either, because that was always fun too. So with the reservation credit, anybody who does have money in the fund account in Astra, that will come over into Firefly. So you'll see that they do have a credit. Let's say, for example, I want to refund. Let's do this one. So under options here, you can refund a specific part of a payment. So let's say I want to refund $50 off this payment, partial amount, there we go. And I want to refund it to a reservation credit. I don't want to put it back on their card because maybe they're going to use it later, right? So I'm going to refund that to the reservation credit. What I've basically done is took the money off the charge, so basically deallocated it, and put it into the fund account or into the reservation credit account. Now, when I want to use that $50, I actually have to mark it as a new payment. So when you do new payment, I'm going to check mark here. I only have 50, so I'm going to type 50 here. And then I'm going to choose reservation credit from the payment options. Don't want to email myself and save that. And that's going to move it from the reservation credit back down to the charge. So big difference there. And you can see that it's very hard to do that by mistake. Like you really have to know what you're doing. And in the other good spot is history will also tell you exactly what has happened with that reservation credit. So no more trying to hunt it down and figure out where the heck it came from or where the heck it went. So you'll see that all there. And on the charges, I don't know if you noticed it, but on the charges tab too, you can see that that's what we did here. Now, another big difference is I know the fund account was kind of for the customer as a whole, right? And you could use that fund account money on any reservation they had. The same is somewhat true. Let me just refund this again back to the reservation credit. just so that we have something. Oh, I should have full amount. That's okay. Something to work with there. Now, because Firefly works on a reservation basis, not on a customer basis, you can see we have, there we go. We have the reservation credit here. And if I go to guest, I can transfer the reservation credit from this reservation to the guest account. Now, once I do that, if I go back to this charges tab, you'll see that this reservation credit, oh, it's there we go. It's like it's making a liar out of me. But once you look here at the reservation credit, you can see it's gone. But when I go to the guest tab here, here's the available credit. Now, if Julie wanted to use this credit towards a different reservation, I could go to her reservations, like the list of all her bookings. I could click on a different booking here. I could go back to the guest tab, and then I can transfer the credit to the reservation that I want it to be available to. So once I transfer it off of the guest account, now you can see here it's available in the reservation credit account to use as a new payment type here as well. So that's kind of how the fund account, the deallocation is going to work. The other thing that you can do though is if they have paid something here and you need to transfer part of that money, maybe you put it to the wrong charge because it happens, right? So if you wanted to transfer part of this 904 to a different payment, you have a transfer to another charge option, which allows you to transfer some money from one charge to whichever charge that they owe for. She owes for a lot that they owe for in this reservation. You choose what charge you want, and you can transfer part or all of it over. So that would kind of be like deallocating and reallocating it to another spot. But as you can see, a lot more intentional, and it's all traced in the history tab. So it's very hard to not be able to figure out pretty easily what someone has done, which is good because we need that. Meter readings are very similar. I mean, there's only so many ways you can do that. If we go to property over here on the left, we have our record utilities. So it's utilities instead of meter, because you can make up whatever utility you want. So gas, sewer, water, electric. If you have like 2 electric meters on one site, no problem, you can set them up both. So you just select the utility from here. So this is an example I was doing. So you can see electric and second electric. And I would say the biggest difference in the meter readings is that Astra, you would fill them all out and hit process. In Firefly, you're just going to go one at a time. So right, if Nelska had a reading coming on today, we would do that and hit save. She would be charged. So you just kind of go through your list one by one. Now, the great thing is that because Firefly is mobile friendly, you can actually just take your tablet or your phone out in the park and do the meter readings right there at the meters if you want. If that's scary, that's fine. But you're able to do that so that you don't have to like write them all down, come back to the office, type them all out, and do that all again. So that's an option if you want to use it. It's much easier to edit the meter readings. So let's say you put in the wrong charge, because we all make typos. You can go to options and you can just delete the last reading and redo it. So very easy. That's good there. And you'll see over here we have 2 options. You can either choose the person you're billing, or you can choose to do not charge, which just means you're updating the meter and you're not charging the guest. So especially if you have sites that you use for both short and long term, you're able to at least make sure that your readings stay up to date, right? So that if you forget to grab it when someone moves in, you're not really far off. So that's how that's going to work too. POS, the POS is like this in Firefly. So we don't have pallets anymore, but we do have favorites. So in the point of sale, you can go to your items that you want to have here on the bar on the left, toolbar on the left. You can mark them as a favorite, and then they'll all be in the list here. So you can just click them to ring them in. All of your barcodes from Astra will come over. So if you had a barcode scanner in Astra, it will work in Firefly. You don't have to reprogram any of that, so don't worry. You can click on the item to edit it, but you can also click on the magnifying glass. So in lieu of palettes, you can click on the magnifying glass to see your category breakdown. Then you can click on the category to see, I think I chose the wrong one. I always do that. You can click on the category to see all the items in the category to ring things up through there. So it is similar to the palettes. This is broken down automatically by category instead. In Astra, you could charge POS items to a customer or a customer site, exactly the same in Firefly. It's just over here under other options. So if you go to other options, you can charge to a reservation, which will show you everybody who is currently checked in, and you can add it to their account. Or you can charge it to a guest without a reservation to add a guest's name into the system, but still have the POS assigned to them. So that option is there too. We are going to go over reports way more tomorrow, but let me just do the greatest hits. So under reports here, your GL summary is now your journal entry summary. Your GL detail is just now journal entries. The biggest difference between the Astra GL summary and the Firefly journal entry summary is that by default, the journal, I don't know if I've batched out recently in here, but let's just do last month. The journal entry summary will show you the debit, credit, and post amount, whereas the GL summary, you had to decide if you wanted one or the other. So it's all on one part. That's it. But that's good. Here you have your print, PDF, CSV, and Excel as well. So all those options are there. The cash receipts by clerks, that will be your payments report. So right now we don't have a specific by clerk filter, but if you go over here on the far right, you'll see the user there. So you either have the clerk name or an IP address if they did it online. So you'll see all that there too. Revenue by, so if you use revenue by code, revenue by site, any of those revenue by reports, we've just combined it into one revenue summary report. So that's what you're going to find, the breakdown of your kind of generalized revenue in that one there. So that's another good one. Rent roll. If you use your rent roll, that will be your reservations report right here. And open funds report will be your reservation credits report right here. So very, very similar reports, just called different things. And we can send those out in a little list, but I'll talk about those more tomorrow if you're coming on the accounting call. So we'll jump into a little bit more of the nitty gritty on there as well. Book Your Site is no more. So now it's the reservation portal, and you'll access that there from the left-hand side, and it's all spiffy there. You can customize this, make it fit into your website, your colors, all that jazz. Pay Your Site is also no more. That is going to be the guest portal instead. So all guests will have access to the guest portal without you having to subscribe them. They'll get that in their emails with their lookup code in the guest portal link. So that's automatic. No subscriptions anymore, basically, which is great. Waiver sign, if you used waiver sign in Astra, that is under policies now instead in Firefly. So settings and policies, there's no extra fee for it like there was waiver sign, and you can have as many policies as you want for them to initial and sign at the bottom. So that's another good one there. And then I think the last, one more note about Book Your Site, actually, now that I'm looking at my little cheat sheet here. With Book Your Site, I know we had to do a lot for you. We had to turn it on for you. We had to put blocks on for you. We had to put minimum night rules on for you. All of that now is controlled in Firefly. So we don't have to do anything for you anymore. We're happy to help you, but that is all 100% controllable on your end. So you don't need us to do that, which is great, because I know sometimes, you know, we can't get to it maybe the time that you want it done. So it's all in your hands now. You don't really need us. And then the last one that I wanted to mention is, you know how sometimes those reservations get kind of stuck on the grid and you had to call us, or if you had done it enough, you would know to go to the clear temporary site usage to release it so you could book it. In Firefly, if you go to reservations and go to search reservations, any reservations that are in process or are kind of stuck will be here at the top, and there's a little remove button. So you're able to remove it without, again, calling us. So that's there on your end as well. But I think that's all my notes. So those are the biggest differences between the two. And I guess we can do questions if anybody has any now.
Yes, we do have a couple, and then feel free to, if you have more, throw them in the chat, raise your hand. We'll get you guys to your questions. So first question that came through, what if you have customers that send payments throughout the season for that next season? Can you apply the amount to the customer's account even if you don't have a reservation available yet?
No, so you can't just put money in the fund account. You'd have to make a charge to hold it. We have found workarounds for parks that do that. So we made an add-on charge called, just here under add-ons, we made an add-on charge, which is like your linked charges, called overpayment, and they just put it into their, into a liabilities account in the meantime, and then move it when they have the charge available.
Awesome. And then another question, can you store a picture of the meter for meter readings?
No. You could on the customer's account if you wanted to. Because like if you go to the actual customer's account here, there it goes. There's a little paper clip, so you could upload it to the customer's account and they could see it as well, but it wouldn't be associated with the meter itself. It'd be associated with the customer and their reservation.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions, you guys? Now is a great time to either send those in the chat or raise your hand. I'll get you unmuted. If there's any while you guys are typing, I'll go ahead and share my screen and wrap us up. So what's next for the rest of the week? Tomorrow is our last day. We have accounting and reporting. Adrian is going to do that for us again. Last Smore Success Week, it was our highest attended and registered day. I have no doubt that it will be the same tomorrow. So come back for that. It's going to be awesome. I know how important accounting and reporting is. And then if you haven't, it's time to meet with your migration manager to either discuss like next steps. Maybe you got signed into Firefly a few months ago. The first half of your migration was done, but we just need to move forward and go live. It's time to do that. So I'll say that tomorrow as well. I know I've said it all week long, but now's the time. The last week in November is mostly booked up for everyone. So we're needing to push you guys earlier because we want to make sure that all your questions get answered. So as you're comfortable going live, like we have all your information, all your reservations, you're ready to copy and paste that portal link onto your website for book your book now button and all those details. The time is here. The time is now. For those in the US, like let's get it done before Thanksgiving. Then you can launch after your holiday with like a great, new end of the year, start to your next season, all of that. So if you haven't ever signed into Firefly, now's also the time to do that. We have created Firefly accounts or Firefly accounts for almost everyone. If your park doesn't have one, we can get you set up with one. So you can start tweaking all the settings, getting more familiar. You can go back and watch the recording of today or any of our S'more Success sessions and kind of follow click by click as people are doing the instruction. And then we also can get training set up for your teams so that way everyone that is going to be using Firefly is comfortable and knows what they're doing. Yesterday's session, if you weren't there, was actually a like day-to-day operation. So I recommend actually using that to just for all your clerks, whoever's going to be in it, to go and just have Firefly up on one screen. If you have two screens, have the recording open on your phone or whatever, and you can follow click by click. I do see the question. The recordings are on our YouTube, so you should have emails from me all week with access to those. If you don't, let me know because I want to make sure I have the correct email. But then you can always get to them on our YouTube as well, which I can send the link out to that too. On Friday, tomorrow, I'm going to send out a feedback survey just for the week. Super short, one question, one button like last time. Love to know what you guys thought of this week and how we can maybe improve it for next time, whatever next time of S'more Success looks like. So that's all I have for today. Any other questions coming through? Pastor Grande, did you guys get the emails? I just want to make sure, or did anyone on your team get an email with the recordings? Just want to make sure you guys do have access to those. And then I can grab our, okay, thank you. I can grab our YouTube channel as well and add that right now in the chat for everyone. Deborah, you did not get it. Okay. Let me go to YouTube, grab our link just so everyone has it. And then Deborah, can you throw your email in the chat so that way, or if you want to email me, let me see, how do I go to our YouTube? I should just have it's just youtube.com/Firefly. So there it is. Okay, Deborah, I'll make sure we don't have like a typo or something in your email because I know I've been sending those out. So awesome. Well, that wraps up S'more Success, learning the language of Firefly. Adrian, thank you so much. This was a super cool session, just getting to see what was and what is. And so as I send those emails out to you guys today, feel free to respond back with any questions. I know most of you also know how to get a hold of Adrian, so either of us can help answer questions for you. And we hope to see you guys tomorrow. So with that being said, thanks so much, everyone, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Bye.